Today on MWIRE Weekly, we'll be discussing the future of Wolverine, how Daredevil fits into the Marvel Universe, the big Star Wars casting announcement, and our main attraction, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. All that and more coming up on MWIRE Weekly. As I said, welcome to MWIRE Weekly. I am here, Optimus Solo, with, as usual, Nate. Hello.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hi.
And we are here to talk about movies. And we're going to start like we do every week, talking about the box office from this past weekend. And there should be no surprise as far as who came in number one for the weekend. That would, of course, be The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with $92 million. And it's not a shabby weekend.
Pretty good.
A little bit of a surprise maybe in the 2 and 3 spots, although The Other Woman beat Captain America last week. I didn't know if I was expecting it to beat it again, so The Other Woman comes in at number 2, and Heaven is for Real actually stays at number 3 with Captain America, The Winter Soldier falling from the 2nd spot all the way down to the 4th spot, and that is obviously a direct correlation with the release of The Amazing Spider-Man and basically competing against the same type of movie there. Rio 2 rounds up the top 5 there. Any surprises from you guys looking at the box office overall for this last weekend?
Yeah, I was surprised Captain America went so low.
Yeah, 52% drop for Captain America, down to just under 8 million. Luckily, it's already made 237 million, so
it's okay.
Yeah, it'll do fine.
I'm not too surprised, considering The Other Woman and Heaven is for Real are not drawing the same crowds as those other two, so it makes sense, I guess.
It would have been interesting to see what kind of numbers Captain America would have done overall without The Amazing Spider-Man coming out this week and without X-Men coming out in a couple weeks, because it kind of bastardized the results a little bit of Captain America, I would expect, but maybe I don't know what the trend is with superhero films. I would have to go back and do some research as far as how long they maintain that, or if it's more just very top heavy with those first couple opening weekends. I don't know. I mean, obviously they do the majority of their business in the first week to 2 weeks. Big drop for Brick Mansions, 62% drop. And a big drop for Transcendence, went from 6th last week down to 13th this week, just barely making $1 million. The box office chart is a tale of two stories here, because if you look at the first 5 or 6 movies, basically most of them are successes. Amazing Spider-Man is going to be a success. The Other Woman did better than they probably thought it would. Heaven is for Real has done fantastic. Captain America did fantastic. Rio will stay on the charts probably for another 5 to 10 weeks, so it's going to be fine. Divergent was great, box office great. God's Not Dead did good. So, I mean, there's a lot of good ones in this story, and then you kind of get down a little bit and you see kind of the box office flop pattern from way earlier in the year with Transcendence not doing well. Noah, I don't think that's a fair one to put in that category, because I think it'll do fine once you factor in overseas and everything else. That one's not too far off, but Transcendence you can definitely add to the collection of crap that came out at the beginning of the year, apparently.
Brick Mansion's only halfway to its budget.
Yeah, that's the one that's kind of sticking out that's probably not coming out at a good time.
Yeah, it's sad at Paul Walker.
Yeah. And then as far as some milestones go, obviously Amazing Spider-Man 2 will bounce past 100 million here in a day or two. Rio 2 just passed the 100 million mark, and Noah probably will pass the 100 million mark in a week to 2 weeks. Other than that, not a lot of huge ones. Frozen is still out in the theaters for the 24th week in a row. So you got that going for it. Anything you guys saw you wanted to bring up? Any surprises?
No.
Nah.
All right, and then looking at the yearly trend so far, obviously the Lego Movie is still reigning supreme at top spot with 252 million. Captain America is just right behind it at 237. Might have a tough time catching it though. Then Divergent, Ride Along, and Mr. Peabody and Sherman, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 will probably be in the list next week.
What do you think the Amazing Spider-Man 2 budget is?
That's surprising that's not on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure we could find that information. But it's weird that it doesn't have that listed there. And it'll be interesting to see how close Amazing Spider-Man 2 can come to Captain America, and if it beats it overall in the year or if it doesn't. Because I assume it will beat everything else that's on the yearly list outside of possibly Captain America and the Lego movie. So we will have to wait and see on that. Getting into our headlines, we don't have a ton of news for you. We're going to spend a majority of our time today talking about the main attraction, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but we do have a few headlines that we need to talk about real quickly. Mad Max, there's a news story out there about basically a new synopsis for the Mad Max Fury Road movie. Not that it's a surprise synopsis. I mean, guess what? It's a post-apocalyptic film.
What?
With a desert landscape where humanity is broken and everyone is crazed fighting for the necessities of life. It sounds just like all the other Mad Max stuff, so I don't...
This is a turn for the worse for the Mad Max franchise.
And basically talks about there being two people, Tom Hardy, which is Mad Max, and Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron. I don't know, nothing groundbreaking out of this. Glad to see they're doing what they should do with Mad Max.
Yeah.
Okay.
What, Nate? You like the Mad Max franchise, don't you?
I've only seen the first one, but yeah.
Wow. The first one's like so different from the other ones.
Yeah.
It's like barely apocalyptic, if it even.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, yeah.
Well, we'll have to watch all those before this one comes out. It is on the coffee table already, so.
Yep.
As far as a Bond headline here, Sam Mendes explains why he's returning for Bond 24, basically hoping to complete the story started by Skyfall. They did something a little bit different with Skyfall, because we had Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale, which basically immediately took, Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace had no time in between the two films as far as the story goes. It picked up immediately, and then with Skyfall, we kind of had a break, and we got to see them a little bit advanced as far as the history of stuff goes. We have obviously a bunch of new cast members that appeared in Skyfall, and a lot of people love Skyfall. So Sam Mendes is obviously looking to continue and maybe finish a few of the storylines that he started with that. I have no problem with that because I really like Skyfall, so he can keep doing them. Did you guys see Skyfall?
No.
I did. In theaters.
What did you think?
Oh, man.
That?
Okay, so I have one weird problem, because it's like with the Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale, it seemed like it was a reboot, like a literal reboot, like this is Bond at his first year.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I liked it, because it felt rougher around the edges. With Skyfall, I thought it was supposed to be just like year 2, but like there's that moment where it's like, you're too old to be Bond. And it's like, well, wait, no, he's like, what is he, like 25? Like, how old is he supposed to be? I don't know where he's at. So, like, there was that weirdness. Other than that, my one other complaint was they had a character that was totally supposed to be Sean Connery. Like, absolutely, like, he's like an old Scotsman. He's from Bond's past. He's supposed to be Sean Connery. They didn't get Sean Connery. My guess is, because, there's been a lot of really negative rumors about his deteriorating health. So he probably could not do it, but it was totally supposed to be Sean Connery, and if they had gotten it, that would have made that movie almost perfect. Other than that, it was a very fun movie, and Daniel Craig might be my favorite Bond.
Yeah, he does a good job with the role, that's for sure. I read another article this last week. It's not anything to do with headlines or anything here, but where Pierce Brosnan was saying that when he watches his performance as Bond, like in films now, that he's embarrassed as to how he portrayed the character and with the films in general. I don't know if that's just him being super critical of himself, and I know a lot of people have problems watching themselves, but he said he wasn't happy with how he played Bond.
My girlfriend really hates the Pierce Brosnan Bond. He was the first one I ever saw. I didn't see the original ones. So she calls him the suave robot. Like, she's like he's not very rough. He's not Bond-like. He's like the suave guy, which I thought was what Bond was supposed to be when I first saw it. I like that style of movie. Like, if he kept playing Bond, his Bond-like characters in other movies, I'd be happy with it. I just guess it is weird for that franchise, the way he played the character.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's the way I kind of first was initiated into the Bond franchise, so that's kind of just how I expected it was always done. I'm like, oh, that he seems to have that right.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a different look in these newer Bonds, and I'm not opposed to it. Shifting gears to the comic book world here for a little bit, the future of Wolverine. Hugh Jackman says that if there is a Wolverine 3, that he's 99.9% sure that would be the last time something like that happens with him. Obviously, he's aging, the character's aging, he's aging, and I don't know how much more they can really do with that character. But according to Jackman, he's ambitious. He thinks there's still some stuff that they can do with that character. So possibly one more Wolverine film. What do you guys think of just his version of Wolverine and the future? What should the future be of that character, Nate?
I don't know. I just don't want to see another reboot of Wolverine in 2 years after he's done. That'll be annoying.
See, I guess my point would be that we don't need a reboot. Like, we don't need, that would be not only his appearance as an X-Men, but it would be the 3 different Wolverine films. Like, I don't need to see any more Wolverine.
So, if they do a Wolverine 4, Nate, you want it to be like Channing Tatum as Wolverine, but they just keep going. Like, they just pretend that he's been Wolverine all the movies.
I'm just saying, hey, yeah, I'm with Kevin. We don't need more Wolverine. Although once the kids of today grow up to be about 25, 30, we're gonna see a ton of Avengers reboots. and X-Men reboots and everything like that.
The question is, are they going to reboot it, or are they just going to recast those roles and just keep going? That's the question.
Yeah. I think the trend seems to be that they reboot things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have enough faith that they'll come up with new stories. They'll just be like, let's do another origin. That sells well.
Yeah, I mean, I get that maybe eventually someone else will have to play Wolverine, but I think if they do that, it would have to be a long time down the road because it's going to be hard to beat Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
He really has done that character the best it's been done.
Right, that's like having some other old guy eventually trying to play Xavier. Like, no.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be sad days when that does happen.
Yeah. So I'm fine with them. I mean, there's plenty of other X-Men they can do films off of. We don't need any more Wolverine. If we get another one that's just yet another movie, that's plenty. People can move on and get interested in other characters.
How would you feel if the guy that plays young Charles Xavier just grew up naturally to be old and they shaved his head?
Well, like I said, that would be like 60 years from now. So I'll be dead, so that'll be fine.
Whoa. Kevin, not going to make it to 100.
I don't know. I'll be so senile that I'll probably think it is Patrick Stewart still, so I don't know. And how will Daredevil fit in with the whole Marvel universe now that they have the property back in there? The article come out this last week. It's basically said that there's going to be a TV show about Daredevil, which we kind of discussed before, that will be set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it'll tell the street-level stories. How do you feel about that concept, Matt?
I actually brought that up last week, so just go listen to that.
For those that didn't listen to last week.
I like that idea. I hope two things. One, since it's a TV show, so they're going to have a lot more time than a movie. I want them to definitely do crazy old Daredevil yellow costume, because it's hilarious. And you can make a comment like, "Man, he's wearing a yellow costume. What is he, blind?" There, I wrote your pilot.
So bad.
It is, but they're gonna do it. You know they are.
Yeah.
I want the what I call the Hell's Kitchen Marvel Knights, which would be Daredevil, Iron Man Power Fist. No, Power Man Iron Fist. Always get that wrong. And then Cloak and Dagger. I want those 5 characters, and so getting Daredevil a TV show is the first step in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to it, and it can't be worse than the movie.
And for those of you that missed the initial story that we did, that's going to be a Netflix series, and it's supposed to be starting at some point in 2015. Nate, what are your feelings on Daredevil?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of frame of reference for Daredevil. I haven't really read any of the comics. I haven't seen the Ben Affleck movie. What?
You haven't seen the Ben Affleck movie?
No, I don't know.
It's actually not terrible. It gets a lot of flack, but I think it's better than people say.
I think we find out more films that one of us hasn't seen during the course of these podcasts.
And it's always me.
Well,
No,
I wasn't going to say that.
Dave. It's always not Kevin.
But Nate, if you rattled off all the films that you have seen, then I would be in your shoes, and I'd be like, I haven't seen that, and I don't know what that is. As far as
we got to get you seeing Wet Hot American Summer.
True. As far as sequels and remakes, we just got 2 to talk about. We all kind of were surprised. Well, I don't know if you guys were, but Dan and I were surprised last year at how well Olympus Has Fallen did. We had White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen both coming out in the same year. We thought, again, 2 movies trying to tackle the same subject. It's kind of like Die Hard and The White House. But we were surprised at how well Olympus Has Fallen did, and I did enjoy that film. Apparently now it needs a sequel then, and that sequel will be entitled London Has Fallen.
That's cool.
So we're just going to take Gerard Butler and throw him in London and then tell the same movie, apparently.
That's the same plot as the Muppets, too. They're like,
what
do we do? What's that?
It says Taken 2 as well. Same thing over.
So expect the exact same movie set in London.
Go to Europe.
Yeah, and the other kind of, I guess you can call it a reboot of such here, The Phantom, poised for a big screen return. The Phantom shall rise again. The Mark Gordon Company has secured the rights to bring The Phantom back to the big screen. Nate, I know you have comments on that.
Yes, I really enjoy the 1996 Phantom movie. It was great. We have to see that. That's in the watch list.
It is.
Yeah.
Matt, do you like the 96 Phantom, and would you be looking forward to a new one?
I haven't seen it. Yes. I'm not going to say no to any superhero movie, because it's kind of a superhero. It's a comic book movie at the very least.
Yeah.
And doubly so for any older stuff or more pulpier stuff.
Yeah. It's super it's a 90s comic movie, so it's got the right level of cheese. It's got a nice layer of cheese on it.
Delicious.
It's got Billy Zane overacting and stuff. It's great.
As far as the casting news goes, apparently the next Terminator movie, Terminator Genisys, is going to have 1,000 people in it because I swear every other week there's a new casting news headline about this film. And the latest, I guess, is more up your guys' alley because it's about Doctor Who star Matt Smith playing a major role in Terminator Genisys. And that he will also appear in its sequels because apparently there's already going to be sequels of this.
Why not?
I don't even know what Terminator Genisys is now. Is that a reboot? Is that a sequel?
It says Genesis, so you would think it would be a prequel.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's going to be the Genesis of the Machines. We haven't seen the actual... or no, that was Salvation, wasn't it? Dang it. I haven't seen that one, but I think that one should have been called Genesis, and the next one should have been Salvation.
No, it's actually just Sarah Connor's mom and dad, like going out on a date, and they go to a Genesis concert.
Oh, that'd be great. They can get Phil Collins to play himself.
Yeah.
But then a robot shows up, and he's it's gonna be a comedy. He's gonna be chasing him, but he slips on a banana peel and doesn't get to him.
Yeah. What? Why? I don't. Yeah. Sure.
And for those of you who haven't been keeping track, it's Game of Thrones director Alan Taylor is heading up the sequel, which crazy that Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke is going to play Sarah Connor. And then we have Jason Clarke as John Connor, Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, Arnold Schwarzenegger will be involved, and Matt Smith will be playing an unknown role at this point. So
I want him to play a villain. That's all I want.
I could see that.
I've never seen him play a villain.
If he doesn't play,
I've seen him in one other thing. What?
If If he doesn't play a silly role, I think it's gonna be awkward. I don't know if I could take him seriously anymore.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he has range.
Oh, that'd be something to see.
And in the other casting news, apparently Tim Blake Nelson has landed himself the role of the eccentric and socially awkward scientist Harvey Elder, a.k.a. Mole Man, in the Fantastic Four franchise. Now, the thought there, as far as the article goes, is that he won't be like the actual villain since we have Doctor Doom in the 2015 film, but he will be something that might be a character that might be seen that would then play a role as a villain in one of the future Fantastic Four films. What are your guys' thoughts of Mole Man being involved in this new Fantastic Four kind of reboot? I
got nothing.
I don't know who Mole Man is, so I can't comment on it.
What?
He's a man that lives in the Earth. You go, Matt.
He's actually in Fantastic Four #1 in 1964, I believe. He was the very first villain they ever fought, and they defeated him permanently because he had a drilling moloid, like some sort of subterranean creature that could dig through mountains and stuff. And he was chasing the Fantastic Four, and they sealed the cave behind them, so he'll never come out. And that's how the first issue of Fantastic Four ends. And it's just like, no, he had a drilling moloid. Like, it's going to just drill through that cave-in. And then they don't address it for like 10 issues. Because Stan Lee is a genius. No, he's a guy who's like shunned. Like, he looks ugly, and I guess he asks the girl out, and then gets shunned, and he's like science super, like, push up his glasses, I'm a nerd! And then, so he flees to the subterranean depths, and then finds a people called the Moloids who are all living there, and then becomes their king. He's actually, if they were like, hey, I want you to write and direct the Fantastic Four movies for a reboot, he would be the first villain I'd do, because I think, we're seeing like the Godzilla trailers where Pacific Rim did well. I think a giant monster might work well, and they haven't done that in superhero movie yet, so that'd be a good take. And then also you could do slight origin story of having Victor Von Doom, but not Doctor Doom. And I think that's how I would do it. So I think that they're making a bad call doing a Doctor Doom then Mole Man rather than Mole Man then Doctor Doom. But I'm glad that they're gonna do it because the other one didn't, and he's like one of their classic villains.
So apparently the people in charge of the new Fantastic Four reboot should reach out to Matt and redo their plan, because I'm agreeing with him more than I'm agreeing with anything I've seen about Fantastic Four so far.
Seriously, I'll pay you to do it. You don't even have to pay me. I'll just give you my ideas and money, and then you can do it.
The biggest casting news, of course, from this past week is all about Star Wars, with a major casting announcement about Star Wars Episode 7. The people named, not that people don't know this already, but John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, who was most notably seen this last year in Inside Llewyn Davis, Andy Serkis, Domhnall Gleeson, and Max von Sydow. For those who don't know who Max von Sydow is, and I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly or not, but he was in the Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close back in 2011, and to me, that was one of the best performances of that year. I absolutely love him, so I can totally see him playing one of the elder gentlemen that apparently is going to have a role somewhere in Star Wars Episode 7. Andy Serkis I'm a big fan of, and Oscar Isaac I'm a big fan of. I'm not as familiar with the rest of them, so we'll have to see. But obviously they're joining Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, and Kenny Baker as the return stars. No mention of Billy D. Williams. I'm sorry, people. But what did you guys think? And does any of those names excite you about Star Wars Episode 7, Matt?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm currently Googling all of them. I think Daisy Ridley could be interesting. She's cute. Yeah, I don't know. And also Domhnall Gleeson. He looks hilarious. And I hope that I get that. I hope against hope that John Boyega is Lando's son, and that they include Lando. Or not a son, and they just include Lando. Although I kind of want that, John Boyega's Lando's son, and Daisy Ridley's Leia's daughter, and and then Domhnall Gleeson could be Luke's son, and then we get hey, it's the kids, and it's fun. That's what I want.
Star Wars: The New Class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Actually, I forgot, but Adam Driver was also in Inside Llewyn Davis. So apparently, there was a fan of Inside Llewyn Davis in the casting department because they got Oscar Isaac and Adam Driver. I'm interested to see what kind of role Serkis plays in this.
He's gonna play that guy who really wants the lightsaber.
He's going to do all the motion capture for everybody in the entire film.
That's good.
So we'll see what happens. Nate, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about the amount of people that are returning from the old cast and any of these new guys?
I don't know. Andy Serkis sounds cool. I like him a lot. That's about it. I don't really know any of the new people that are coming on. I haven't really seen too many movies with them in it.
You guys know Max von Sydow if you saw him, I think.
Probably.
I'm looking at him.
Maybe not, but he's been in a few films. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they were... I thought maybe I'm incorrect. I thought Peter Mayhew was not doing as well, age-wise and health-wise, but he must be doing fine because he's going to get the...
Did he sign on for 3 movies?
He signed on for at least 1.
I don't know if any of them signed on for more than 1.
I was going to say, I thought Harrison Ford legit said, I only want to do 1, and I want Han Solo to die so that no one can do him after me. But I could be wrong. That was a rumor I had heard. I don't know if that was legit.
I also heard a rumor that he was, out of all the returning cast members, that he was going to play the biggest role in this film.
He's one of the coolest characters in the whole series.
Yeah, so I have no problem with that either. All right, so that does it for the casting call. Going on to trailer talk a little bit, we had a few trailers released this last week. Road Diploma, Half of a Yellow Sun, Lullaby, The Salvation, a new one for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a new one for The Fault in Our Stars, a new one for Godzilla, and then They Came Together, All Cheerleaders Die. Yes, All Cheerleaders Die, and What We Do in the Shadows. Nate, I know a bunch of those appeal to you. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's just get the... Let's actually talk about Godzilla. Godzilla, this new trailer actually looks a lot better than the last trailer. They're showing a lot more of the monsters, and it looks like an actual monster movie instead of we can vaguely see them, let's send in the military, and then have most of the story take place on the ground with people. I don't know. I feel like you go see a Godzilla movie to see Godzilla,
Yeah. I hope.
So I mean, it's looking a lot better than what I originally thought.
Yeah, I think they definitely picked a good time to do one coming off the heels of Pacific Rim and whatnot. And I think everyone's all about the big giant monsters and stuff like that. So I can see that. I've never been a huge Godzilla fan, so I mean, I'll go see it, I guess, but I'm not going to be overly excited about it. What's next, Nate?
The Salvation. I am just a huge fan of westerns, so I want to see that movie. We'll probably not get it in where we are, but I want to see it. Nothing really too cool about the trailer to really talk about, other than it looks like a really solid western, and I don't know, maybe it's just the landscapes or something that I'm into. I just love seeing it.
I think it looks interesting. It has an interesting cast, so I'll be looking for more on that one. Keep going, Nate.
All right, man. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had 3 more shots of the turtles, and Megan Fox still didn't say anything. So
I was going to say that. I was going to be we still have yet to see Megan Fox have a line.
Yeah. What else will pique my interest? They Came Together is a film by David Wayne. Am I saying that right? David Wayne and Michael Showalter. And it stars Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. And that looks really cool. It's basically the whole cast of Wet Hot American Summer doing a romantic comedy spoof. I hate to call it a spoof because spoof movies have gotten such a bad rap, but it is a spoof movie. And I really like Wet Hot American Summer, so I'm looking forward to that one.
And which one are you looking forward to more than any of them?
Probably What We Do in the Shadows. That looks awesome. It's like The Office with vampires is how I saw it.
And that, for people that don't know, is from the creators of The Flight of the Conchords.
Yes.
Stars Jermaine Clement, and it does look funny. It's about three vampires, basically, that are sharing a flat, and then a fourth one that eventually comes in, and it's just, I don't know, it looks hilarious. I will be a fan of that, but I doubt it'll come to us.
Yeah, it's too small. I don't know. We're not getting anything, and it's sad. And that one looks amazing.
I will say that Half of Yellow Sun definitely has the potential to be a buzzworthy film. Dramatic topic there. Some big name stars like Chiwetel Ejiofor, and again, I never know how to say his name, and some other people. Lullaby, if you want to be depressed, I guess that's one you can check out about a dad that is dying of cancer and how the family copes with that. Matt, any ones that we missed that you wanted to bring up?
The only one that you didn't bring up that I watched was All Cheerleaders Die, which I could do with that. I don't know what the genre is, like comedy, drama, horror, action.
yeah, that looks like a train wreck.
It might be good for some cheap laughs.
That might be a crappy movie night movie.
And I mean, it's got the leading ladies are pretty. I don't know if they're good actresses.
Probably not.
Based on the movie's plot and everything, it's probably not. But
the requirements were like, you need to be pretty and you're gonna die,
and you need to act like a cheerleader.
Can you act like a cheerleader and can you act like you're dying? There's a little bit of everything though here. That there are some westerns, some comedy, some superheroes, some drama. So I mean, check out the trailers. There might be one or two that kind of tickle your fancy there. So that's it for the news segment. Like I said, we're going to spend a good chunk of the time in our main attraction. So after the break, we'll be starting our discussion on The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
What is all this?
The future.
We literally can change the world. What about Peter?
Not everyone has a happy ending.
This is bigger than you, Peter.
I made a choice. This is my path.
Soon, everyone in the city will know how it feels to live in a world without power, without mercy, without Spider-Man.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. It is time now for the main attraction this week on MWIRE Weekly. But before we get to Amazing Spider-Man 2, quick discussion of any of the films that we saw this past week. I know together we saw Amazing Spider-Man 1. We will hold off on talking about that for a minute. But any of the other films that we saw this week that we want to bring up. Nate, what did you see this last week?
I'm actually looking all that stuff up right now because I have a terrible memory.
He made a list finally.
I know we watched Gremlins.
Yep, and we watched World War Z and The Princess Bride.
Yes, we did all of that.
Not bad.
Forgot about The Princess Bride.
Nate, what was your overall opinion on World War Z?
I thought it was a good zombie movie. There's just the one element. Okay, first of all, it had a lot of really cool ideas. I'm not going to spoil any because Matt hasn't seen it. But overall, really good. The one problem with it was Brad Pitt decided not to work the whole movie. He decided to just stand there and look at stuff. And it was the most awkward thing ever. He was, basically things would happen and he would react to them the same way he would react to, looking far off in the distance and seeing someone walk across the street and being like, oh, that's a guy.
See, and I know you had that problem with it. I kind of didn't have that same issue with Brad Pitt because I thought for me it made it feel like it was more like an everyman type of character in the film rather than have this we have a zombie movie, and then all of a sudden we're going to have this like superhero person with like.
I'm not saying he has to be a superhero or anything. I'm just saying he didn't have a personality. Like he didn't, but at the same time, I'm not saying he had to be like wisecracking or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have a specific personality. He just didn't have anything at all. He was a completely like empty vessel character, and I think that a lot of times the everyman character gets mistaken for a boring character.
Yeah, I can see that. So we'll have to wait until Matt sees that film so he can give his interpretation on how he feels Brad Pitt does in that one. But I agree with you. There's a lot of interesting elements to it. It was with a genre that's been done a lot in the past 5 to 10 years. I thought they came up with some clever and creative things to make it feel like it wasn't done over and over again.
Yeah. And also, I haven't read the book or anything, so I know, like, I'm pretty sure that didn't follow the book at all. But you know, whatever.
It kept the zombies.
Yeah,
it did that much.
Zombies. Yeah.
The three of us watched together Princess Bride. We'd all seen it. We'd all seen it before, with the exception of Matt not remembering all of it completely. So, Matt, now that you've had a fresh watching of it, I know you were somewhat tired towards the end, but what is your impression of that film overall?
It's the same impression everyone has. It's a fun film, and it's great for any day, like rainy afternoon. Pop it in. It's fun. It's great. It's got Freddie Savage, who's one of our biggest fans. He's always commenting on our stuff, and I'm sure it's the same guy.
And we did mention during that film that falls into the categories of a film that should never be redone, because you don't have Andre the Giant still.
Also, I'd like to point out, it's a 98-minute movie, completely like fun and entertaining the whole way through, and it didn't have like crazy plot twists. Just super good, straightforward movie, and they don't make them like that anymore. I feel like
that is for sure. And you know, the combination of Columbo telling a story to Freddie Savage. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, is there anything else, Nate, that you saw that wasn't The Amazing Spider-Man?
Just the Gremlins we didn't really touch on. We have a collection of the Gremlins, the Goonies, and the Gremlins 2, in that order, I guess. No. But the Goonies, you asked me, Kevin, which one did I like better, and definitely the Goonies is a better movie than the Gremlins.
You haven't seen Gremlins 2 yet, though.
No, I haven't. And
You're
I don't
still going to
know.
think that the Goonies is better, though.
Okay. That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Matt, anything that you saw over the course of the week?
Nope. I watched something like 90% of the movies I watch with you two, so...
Yeah.
That's how we like it.
Well, convenient for you guys, not so much.
Yeah.
I just like watching movies with you guys because I like getting your reactions, and apparently you would like to watch films with me, unless Nathan's around to spoil my comic book ignorance. Anyway.
I'm gonna put out an apology right now to anyone who's following our live tweets, all 0 of you, because Nate totally ruined Spider-Man 2.
I didn't ruin it.
No.
But for all the comic book fans, they'll say the exact same thing that Nate said. That storyline's been around for 40 years.
It's the same. That's great, because I'm going to hate on Nate all day long for it, but I did the exact same thing when we were talking Superman. Although mine was 60 to 70 years old.
Wait, what did you spoil with Superman?
Oh, I don't even remember. It was like, I don't even know. Go back. Man. It was like 3 podcasts ago. I spoiled something from Superman.
Papa Kent dies.
Oh, Matt might have been it. Although that really didn't. Oh no, it was Jor-El dies. This was the one I spoiled, because Papa Kent didn't die until like 1998, and then he came back in 1999. Because nobody dies in comics.
You're right. He died in the Richard Donner Superman movie. He just like randomly is like walking and he's like, "Oh, my heart dead."
Oh, yeah, he did.
All right, so getting into Spider-Man talk. First, we all rewatched The Amazing Spider-Man 1. So just kind of getting getting the stage set for our talk on Spider-Man 2, what, Matt, is your overall thoughts and opinions on The Amazing Spider-Man 1? And in rewatching it, did anything change, or how do you feel?
Well, I don't think my opinion of it changed in any way. It was really just a reminder of just how well some of the people in that movie acted. Um, I know Nate had a lot of problems with it going in, like before it ever came out. Like he had a lot of very negative opinions, and I think that I could agree with those negative opinions, and yet in spite of them, I think it did admirably, and I think it might be the best Spider-Man movie we ever get, and that's sad in and of itself, but it was fun, and I'm happy that we have it.
What were your favorite parts of, or what they did? What about Amazing Spider-Man 1 made you say such good things about it being one of the possibly the best Spider-Man films we ever had?
Well, first off, starting with Gwen Stacy instead of Mary Jane, since Gwen Stacy, was a 70s, 80s character, 60s, 70s, 80s character, I think. So like starting then, where most of the people watching it are like probably know the 90s Mary Jane Spider-Man, and from the very popular cartoon. So it's like they're doing a story that most people don't know that they could avoid entirely, but they started right at the beginning, and I love that about it. Also, the casting, I think I don't know if they could have cast anyone better than that.
And we'll get into those specific roles as we talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2 and our thoughts on those. Nate, obviously you had some issues with the Amazing Spider-Man 1. What were they?
I guess. Well, the issues I had with it were mostly production, based. Like Sony crapped out. Well, so Sony made a movie like in haste because they had to keep the license. So that was kind of just my my worry about it. And I guess so I saw this in theaters when it first came out, and I was young and I was in a different mood at the time, and just thinking everything needs to be like Batman and everything needs to be more serious and more logical. And I've grown up in the last 2 years, and I don't know, rewatching it, I think it's a better movie than what I originally thought. That said, the crane scene's still kind of stupid.
Nate does not like the crane scene.
It's just it's silly, but I'm more accepting of silliness now. I like silliness. It's fun.
You're silly.
I try to be.
Overall, how did you think The Amazing Spider-Man 1 compared to the 3 Spider-Man we had before that, Nate?
I really, 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 really like Spider-Man 2. I think that one's better than Spider-Man 1, the Amazing Spider-Man 1 still. Even though I think Andrew Garfield is a better Peter Parker, I think Spider-Man 2 is a more solid movie. Is a more solid movie. Is that right?
Talking about Doc Ock with the mini-son?
Yes.
You might need to rewatch that movie.
I might. Again, I haven't seen it actually in a few years, so yeah. But I don't know, I like it. I remember enjoying it a lot.
I enjoyed it when it first came out, but I think I've gotten over it.
And I like Willem Dafoe.
He's great.
In the first movie.
I wish they'd brought him back. I mean, they weren't gonna, but I wish they had.
Yeah. But you got Tex Richmond instead.
Tex Richmond.
Spider-Man, as someone who isn't huge into comics, not because I don't like the characters and superheroes or whatnot, I just never got into them. But
it's an expensive hobby.
Yeah, but growing up, Spider-Man was always my favorite comic book character, even though I really wasn't reading a lot of comics. But like I had the Spider-Man coloring books and like stuff like that. Like I really enjoyed the idea of Spider-Man, even though I'm deathly afraid of spiders. But I remember, even though I enjoyed when the other trilogy came out, and I thought there were some cool scenes and stuff like that, none of it stuck with me that much. like nothing from those first three films just really like oohed and awed me that much. So I mean, I don't really have like any like passionate connection to those three films. And casting wise, I think they dropped the ball on a lot of on a lot of the roles there outside of Willem Dafoe and one or two other people. So I guess it wasn't going to be hard for these films to beat those films for me. But I thought The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was better than all three of those films. So it just kind of gives you an idea where I was coming from going into this one. So before you actually went into the theater to watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Matt, what were your expectations? What was your mindset going to see this second film? What were you thinking? What were you expecting?
I was incredibly worried. The trailers showed, 3 villains, like with the Goblin, Electro, Rhino. I knew that the first one was so good it was gonna be hard to live up to the expectations. And in my back of my mind, I was like, I've probably got an idea of what this plot's gonna be already, and I don't like it, and it looks either gonna be too long or too convoluted. So I went in very worried.
I kind of did the same thing. I was very skeptical about what they were trying to do because from everything that I read and saw about this film, it felt like they were completely flipping the script as far as not really too concerned about what happened in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, that it was going to be more so like, well, hey, we did that film, we secured the rights, we have Amazing Spider-Man 1, we got some of the casting down, but now we're going to completely go another direction and start trying to ramp up this quest for this, collaboration movie like everybody needs to do apparently in the superhero genre, with the Avengers, with the Justice League, and with the rumors that came out about the Sinister Six. So I was really worried that it was going to be a train wreck, that they were going to be throwing way too many villains in there, that they were going to ignore or skate around stuff that happened in The Amazing Spider-Man 1. So I was really expecting to be disappointed going into this film. So that's kind of where I was at. Nate, what were your expectations and mindset going in?
My expectations were, I was keeping an open mind. Like, I didn't want to hate the movie going into it because I, had issues with the last one. So I was just, like, trying not to hate it and trying to enjoy myself, and I think I did. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll get the initial reaction as you walked out the theater first, and then we'll kind of break it down a little bit and dissect the movie a little bit more. But Matt, when you left the theater, your initial reaction was what?
Well, I don't know if I liked the note that they ended on. But I mean, leaving the theater, I was pretty happy. I enjoyed myself. I think I didn't find any problems with the movie until I started thinking about it later.
Nate, your initial reaction was?
My initial reaction was that X-Men trailer was really shoehorned in.
Holy crap, it was.
What was your initial reaction of Spider-Man 2?
I was enjoying it a lot. Like I liked it, but I feel like it ended like 4 times.
What was how you described your reaction when I asked you how the film was?
Dude, I don't remember.
I was like, so how was the movie? And you were like, meh.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a good Spider-Man movie. It's not. It doesn't take the genre to new heights. It just acts like what a Spider-Man movie could be. It's like, this is one of them. Try that one. No? Okay, we'll do it again.
I don't know. I'm gonna disagree. I was actually very happy leaving the theater.
Wow.
Going in with not high hopes on this film at all. I fully expected it to be one of the worst superhero films we probably had gotten in recent times. And I was wrong, and we'll get into why. But I was very pleasantly surprised leaving. Now, granted, I just saw that this morning, so
no,
maybe I will have similar reactions as I think about it more and as it digests a little bit more, and as we talk some of this out, maybe I'll even change my mind on some stuff. But my initial reaction was all positive on this one. So getting into first some of the casting, because we kind of talked about that when we were briefly mentioning Amazing Spider-Man 1. Let's get into some of the main characters and just kind of your views on them. First of all, can we all agree that Andrew Garfield is the superior Spider-Man of our generation?
Oh, he made a reference. He doesn't even know it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. That was perfect. Yeah.
Way to go, Kevin.
Yay! I don't know what I did. But Matt, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire?
There's no choice there. It's Andrew Garfield.
And Nate?
I don't think Tobey Maguire is terrible, but Andrew Garfield is better.
I want to bring up something, and I apologize. I'm not gonna try to personally attack you in any way. But you guys brought up when we were watching The Amazing Spider-Man 1 that you feel Andrew Garfield is not nerdy or geeky looking enough to be like he's too good looking.
That was
he
Nate.
is.
And I strongly disagree with that.
Dude, he is dreamy as all hell.
All right, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with I guess whatever you guys are envisioning as your stereotypical what a nerd or geek should look like.
I was gonna say I am right there with Kevin, where he totally plays a nerd. Like he's not a fat pencil pocket protector nerd, but I mean he's got modern nerd all over him.
Yeah, because I don't expect I don't expect all nerds or geeks to fit into the Screech mold, I guess. I mean, I would say that we're all nerds, but and we're all geeks because we're all into a lot of different sci-fi, fantasy, comic book stuff. But I don't think anybody would look at any one of us and be like, "That's a nerd."
Not me.
The issue, yeah, Matt. The issue I actually had with the first one is like he's in high school and he's being like picked on and stuff.
Yeah,
but like that, I don't know, like he looks too normal and like cool, and he like skateboards and crap, and
he's
I don't know,
shy though. Like he's got that
he's awkward,
dismissive personality that's going to get him picked on as soon as someone notices him. Like he blends in the background, but as soon as one person notices him and makes fun of him, and he doesn't defend himself, it's open season.
But the thing is that he does defend himself in the first movie.
Right, but I think
a lot. Everyone defends themselves.
Like he's very mumbly defending himself.
Yeah, but like Flash like took so much crap in that movie
after he became Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I think you got to look at it this way: like he's this boy, all right, who already is set apart from a lot of the other kids because he both of his parents are dead.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of your own experiences, like I've somewhat experienced that, and it automatically puts you in a different light if you have a different situation at home, whether it be one parent, two parents, whether it be they're alive but you live with somebody else. I mean, it automatically, you're different from the other kids. So he has that going for him, and then he has the fact that he's somewhat, to me, awkward. And not necessarily, I don't know if shy is the right word, as far as like maybe like semi-antisocial on the awkward side. So, but he's the type of person that I still think when you have that personality, they're still going to rebel against being bullied. They're not going to take it. They're not going to be the one that just cowers and lets themselves be stuffed into trash cans and stuff like that. They're going to fight back, but they're scrawny enough where they can't really do much. So I mean, I don't know. Like I get that he's dreamy or whatever, but someone could make the argument that Tobey Maguire is dreamy to a lot of girls too. But to me, what they did with him is they made it so, like, I hate when they try to create the stereotype. This is what a nerd should look like.
Well, it's funny you say that because like what's his name? They totally like did that in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Jamie Foxx. Like, they did exactly that.
No, they made him look like a crazy man.
No, they made him look like a super stereotypical nerd
Yeah.
with his tooth gap, pencil, pocket protector, giant.
Yeah.
In a way. And see, that's the one part I didn't like about how they did that character, although I think they add obviously the crazy factor where he's talking to himself and has a collage of Spider-Man and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's kind of a combination, but yeah, I don't think they needed some of those because I hate that. I hate when we try to create the stereotype of an image that like everybody should fit in this box if they're that or that. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with Andrew Garfield playing and being dreamy and still being a Spider-Man because he's still scrawny, he's still small, he's not this muscle-bound guy. It's not Channing Tatum or someone trying to play Spider-Man, which would be awful.
The thing that made Peter Parker made Andrew Garfield playing Peter Parker better in this movie is they didn't really dwell on the fact that he's awkward, and they didn't need to go to that territory for the story arc at all.
Yeah. And since you guys, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say one more Andrew Garfield comment. When you said like he doesn't have to fit in that Screech mold. If they do a Saved by the Bell movie, fucking Andrew Garfield should be Screech. Like I think he could do that perfectly.
And then we'll get to see if that would have been a better role for Nate to fitting the mold of Spider-Man. I'm just kidding.
Dustin Diamond is Spider-Man.
No, Dustin Diamond can do nothing ever again.
He'll get mad at you because he lost more weight because he's got his own system.
I don't know what that's a reference to.
I totally just made a reality TV show reference. Nate and Kevin got it.
I did. Guess what?
Well.
Nobody should be surprised at that. But since we brought up Electro, let's talk about him for a second and then Jamie Foxx's character there. I linked to an article that we're not really going to talk about because I disagree with everything the guy said on Total Film. But he was.
Oh, did you read that, Matt?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But he was trying to say that Electro looked too much like what characters did he throw up there?
Dr. Manhattan.
Yes,
he did.
Dr. Manhattan.
That's the one comparison you have to make.
He also compared him to somebody else.
The Riddler in Batman Forever.
He said the voice was Riddler from Batman Forever, and the look was Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen. I guess, but to me, I didn't think of those things when I was watching the film at all. But what were your guys' impression of both Jamie Foxx and Electro as a character, Matt?
I was talking to one of my friends, my one friend who has not seen this movie yet today, and I said, like, the acting is amazing. I could say, without a doubt, Jamie Foxx gives the poorest performance of everyone in that movie, and that's saying something because we all know Jamie Foxx is great.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx is a legitimate, like, great actor.
I love him in everything he's been in, and he doesn't do terrible with this, but he is definitely the weakest performer in this.
I feel like he doesn't fit into this genre that well.
That probably is it. That seems like a legitimate idea.
I feel like he would. I think part of that wasn't as much his fault as like what you guys said. I think if you take away some of the pocket protector gap, all that type of stuff and the over the top nerd aspects that they gave him, I think then it would have worked better.
They did foist every single stereotype onto what is generally a very beautiful man.
Right.
And they're just like, look at this guy. He's, we know he's beautiful and smooth, but now we gave him all of the nerd qualities.
But I think without that, it would have played well because I think I like all, how he was talking to himself and kind of the mannerisms he gives with that. I liked the work, once he becomes Electro. I'm not saying I liked everything they did with that character, but I didn't mind his portrayal as that entity instead of the alter ego that was before that.
I don't know enough about Electro to
I was going to
say
ask you
that
guys.
he did a good job.
They changed Electro so much, like a lot. Like in the comic books, Electro can't do like the dematerializing or whatever. He travels like Iceman does, only instead of shooting ice in front of him, he shoots electricity in front of him, which makes even less sense than Iceman. My stupid phone. I'm sorry. And like he's a silly character. They changed him a lot. I mean, he wears like a lightning bolt mask, but it's not like one lightning bolt. It's like 3 intersecting lightning bolts. So he's got a giant asterisk that hangs 6 inches off of each side of his face. Like he was a silly character. They changed him entirely in this movie. Other than the fact that he's electricity powered still.
Yeah, I was definitely thrown off when he started dematerializing and stuff because I wasn't expecting that, and I didn't know that's what that character did. But apparently, if it didn't ever do that,
and all of the trailers and everything had me very worried because they changed him so much, and I hate when they change things a lot when they don't need to. But I'm not gonna lie, it worked in this movie, and I most of my concerns were false.
Yeah, I
feel like.
Go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say, like, none of the villains in this movie had any lasting like effect on me. This was like the best parts of this movie had nothing to do with the villains. Like it was Spider-Man being Spider-Man. That's why this movie has any like good qualities to it. It's because of Andrew Garfield being Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy.
I was gonna say all of the villain superhero stuff, like the human interactions, were all stellar. Like.
I'm going to again disagree slightly. Not with what you're saying about all the stellar parts. I agree, but I don't think the villains are as bad as everyone's trying to play them out as. Outside of one, I liked the stuff that's going to stick with me about Electro was the visual stuff they did when they gave us like out of his eyes where he's seeing like all the different energy sources and how all the different currents are running throughout the city and whatnot. Like I thought those shots were amazing.
That was great.
And I'm not.
Yeah, those are cool shots, but the shots don't make him an interesting character.
Well, to me it somewhat does. To me, it adds an element to, because it gives you an inside look as to what that character's seeing and what that charac's feeling.
Right, like his point of view.
Right. So for me, it kind of made it a little bit more easy to relate to him, and I really like how they initiated him as Electro, and how I did have to go to the bathroom at some point during that scene, like right before it.
No.
Oh
yeah.
no!
But no, when him and Spider-Man both have their first contact, and he's not necessarily like, not that he's ever pure evil, I guess, but he's not like full on villain at that point. I kind of liked the dynamic and how you kind of got to see the progression of him trying to cope with what has happened to him and what he's able to do now, and his obviously obsession with Spider-Man and the need to be in the spotlight. I thought that was an interesting development that sometimes we don't get with the supervillains, and seeing that whole transformation. Sometimes they kind of fall prey to, here's a person, here's the accident that causes them to be a supervillain, now they're a supervillain.
Yeah,
I
agree with you on that wholly.
And sometimes they don't give us that progression, which I appreciated with Electro. So that part I did like about him. And I actually, as much as I love Willem Dafoe, I thought both Osborn people, Norman and Harry Osborn, I thought it was well done in this one. I thought it was somewhat interesting to see that connection, to see him talking to his son and how he had changed. And I thought when Harry Osborn came out, now is that technically what, Hobgoblin?
No, that's still the Green Goblin.
I think he's supposed to be
in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, in this universe.
When he turns into a goblin, the goblin form, like I thought that was pretty well done as far as how it was designed. It wasn't so cartoony that it looked fake to me.
You had an issue with the mask. Like, remember the Spider-Man 1 mask you were telling me about? No.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the mask and the outfits better in this one. I thought in the first trilogy of Spider-Man, stuff sometimes was played too cartoony. So yeah, like I thought both in costume and in design, sometimes it looked a little too cartoony. Which, nothing against cartoons, I love cartoons, but when I have a superhero film like that, sometimes I want it to look a little bit more realistic, and I think that's what they did better in these two films so far, whereas the Green Goblin was a little bit more believable, even though it's a weird... And saying that, that's one of the things that kind of somewhat bugged me, I guess, in the first one about the lizard. Is that the right name for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at times I thought that was a little bit fake looking, but I didn't feel that ever at this point, except for with one of the other villains, which we'll get into in a second. So yeah, I mean, I actually did feel somewhat of a connection to some of the villains in this one. I felt the relationship between Norman and Harry Osborn. I got a better understanding of Harry Osborn as a character, and I liked what they did with Electro. But going into that other villain, then I guess, and I guess there is a minor spoiler alert here because some people will not have known who's going to get, what amount of screen time and juggle the villains and whatnot. So I apologize for that. But let's talk about the Rhino a little bit. Matt, what was your impression of that character?
So we're going like at least a little bit of spoilers.
Yeah, you can.
I did not know that they were going to get Paul Giamatti going in. I didn't know that, and then watching it, I did not know that that was Paul Giamatti. That just went right over my head. And I think the CG looked really bad.
I am a huge Paul Giamatti fan. I've watched movies that a lot of people haven't even heard of just because he's been in them. Sometimes to my regret later on, because the movies weren't that good. But I really like Paul Giamatti, and I really wish he wasn't in this movie.
Yeah.
His accent was awful.
Wait. You wish that he wasn't in this movie? You don't wish that he did like a better job or
no? I just wish that he wasn't in this movie.
Oh,
I don't think they need him. I don't think he.
Well, it'll help him get to a higher point on the top 100.
That's true.
Highest grossing actors.
That's true. And maybe with more time, he will make me change my mind. But I don't know why.
Wait, yeah, because it won't Rhino be in like the Sinister.
Yeah, that's something I have to talk about because Joel and I were going back and forth on the Sinister Six here in a minute, after the movie. But we'll get back to that. But yeah, like I said, if he does appear and if he is part of that Sinister Six, maybe I will change my mind and I'll say I was wrong. But he's capable of doing a better job than he did in this film.
Well, the problem with the Rhino is he's a big dumb brute guy.
Yeah, but he didn't even get a Russian accent down.
I don't know if that was a Russian accent.
His name's Alexei.
It was some kind of weird. It felt like a Brooklyn accent mixed with a Russian accent. It was really awkward.
If everything about the Rhino character felt wrong and misplaced to me.
Yeah, and I mean, also he was in the movie for a total of 10 minutes. It's ridiculous.
I do like how he was at the beginning and how he was at the end, kind of bookend things, whatever. I'm a sucker for that type of thing, but maybe it's just my inexperience with that character and the origins and the history of that character, but I like my supervillains, and I was talking to you about this a little bit, and I talked to Joel about this. I like my supervillains to feel like they're one with whatever their vices or their attachments or their whatever. I want it to feel like it's all connected. I thought they did good in the original Spider-Man trilogy with Doc Ock because it felt like all that was connected to him and it was as one. And that's what I kind of like. And to me, all this felt that it was a big mech thing with Paul Giamatti as a pilot.
Yeah. Although isn't that kind of what the Rhino is in the comics? He's just a guy in a suit.
I think that might be true.
Or at least that's what I remember from the 90s show.
I don't think he's taken the suit off ever at this point. So, I mean, it's kind of like the Scorpion, where I don't even know if the Scorpion can get his suit off.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying you could get this off, but it just the way they made it look with him raising and lowering the little, I don't know, cockpit thing or whatever you want to call it. It just made it feel like there's just some guy that's piloting this mech suit.
Yeah, I totally think he can get in and out of that, no problem. I mean, they made it look super, super realistic. I do air quotes with my hands. Because, I mean, it is a more realistic mech than, what you get from, anime or even some movies.
Right.
So, I mean, it looks like he can get in and out.
How did you feel about Rhino in general, Matt?
I don't know if I like the whole gun aspect to it. If they had just made it so that he was in a giant, super strong, chargy suit, I think I'd like it more. The guns, I don't know if I like. Other than that, I mean, like I don't know. I think I'm right there with you. I don't think they should have had Paul Giamatti doing it.
Yeah, it could have been anyone.
I think it distracted too much from it.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't even notice, so it didn't distract me. And I love really bad accents. I also love really good accents. Like, I just love when someone doesn't talk like me, like some Midwesterner from America. You have any accent other than maybe a Southern United States accent, I am 100% down. But then like one good Southern belle accent also, like you just don't be a Southern male, and you will woo my heart.
Well, we don't want any Southern males wooing your heart, anyways. So
Yeah, I'm sure. I would get upset if that happened.
oh
But yeah,
Lord.
Anyway,
But
what?
I didn't get your guys' overall thoughts. I mean, I kind of went on my own tangent about Harry Osborn. But what was your guys' both Harry and Norman Osborn? What was your take on those two characters, Nate?
I didn't like the Green Goblin in this that much. I didn't really like the character. I didn't care about his struggle, and I don't know. Pretty much all the bad guys in this are just a wash for me. Like I didn't look at him and go, "Ooh, that's a fun character to look at and watch do stuff." You know, it's
What about the relationship between Harry Osborn and Spider-Man?
that came out of nowhere.
Slash
That was like, hey, we were friends, even though we're completely different social structure. Like it wasn't even addressed in the first movie. It just felt like it's like, oh, hey, they're friends, right? Yeah, sure, okay, let's get them together. And he's like, interrupting his big important meeting in that one scene, and it's just like, really. He seems more important than Peter Parker, like in all aspects of everything.
well, I don't know. I think it worked for me. It worked for me at least. Like, the whole meeting scene. It was like he totally wanted to get out of that meeting, and like he's like,
Okay.
I'm not enjoying myself. You guys are all getting demoted. And then it was like, hey, an old friend you haven't seen in 8 years has shown up. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go leave and let you all brood without me. Like, I thought that totally made sense. That part of the scene, and like, I don't know, like, just because we didn't get him in the first movie, like, we didn't get all of Spider-Man's life in the first movie. That doesn't mean that there aren't elements of it that can't be brought back. Like, would it have been better if they had spent another 20 minutes in the first movie,
God no.
where 8-year-old Peter Parker and 8-year-old Harry Osborn are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, your parents died, Pete." Like, would that have made the next one better? I don't think it would have.
No. Yeah, I mean, you're right, but at the same time, it's just
Isn't that
like, it fell out of place.
yeah? But coming from someone again that doesn't know the comics very much, isn't that something? Even for me, that's something that's just kind of common knowledge, isn't it? That those two had a childhood connection. Or is
More
that-
so even than this movie. Like,
Yeah,
they
so
went to college together, I'm pretty sure.
that's just something that I just fully accepted as like I even without knowing much about it, I'm like, yeah, that's just kind of that's the history of Harry Osborn and Peter Parker. They're the same age. They grew up. He consoled him. Like all I needed was the line that they gave me as far as like that he was there for him when his parents died. I totally bought it, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's common knowledge amongst comic book stuff. So I'm going to go with it. So to me, didn't feel out of place.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really liked their interactions out of costume. Like, I loved how like straight laced and like, I'm a businessman and I'm my dad's dead, but I'm gonna stay strong. Harry Osborn was, until like Peter says that line or whatever, and he just kind of cracks a little bit, and he's like, yeah, I am still 18. I am still a kid.
Right.
Like, I thought they did spectacular with that, and I was very pleased with their interactions.
I did like the casting of Harry Osborn as well. I think he fit the look pretty good. for what I kind of wanted out of that character. What about just the overall tone of the film? Now, in the article that I had linked to from Total Film, they bashed it a lot for the tone. They said it had too much cheese. It was humor in the wrong spots, this, that, and the other. But overall, the tone of the film, the mood, the atmosphere that they set, how do you feel that worked in this film overall, Nate?
I felt the tone was fine for what it was. Like, I'm not someone that minds cheese. Like, I'm not gonna hate a movie for being too cheesy. I feel like this movie wasn't even cheesy enough. I don't know.
See, I think that was written by just someone who loved the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is fine. The Dark Knight trilogy is great, but like,
not every movie can be that.
We don't need every comic book hero to be dark and brooding, especially Spider-Man. Spider-Man is not supposed to be this. He's supposed to be this kid that has a different way of coping with all the crap that's happened to him. You know, I mean, if Batman had half the things happen to him that happened to Spider-Man, good Lord, that guy would have already committed suicide. So, I mean, Spider-Man has a different way of coping, and I don't need him to be this depressed, dark, and like, that's one of the things that I don't think worked when they tried to go a slight bit in that direction in the original trilogy. That's just not how he reacts to those types of things. He takes grief in a different way, and I like the cheese, I like the humor, and I never felt that there was humor that was like, that there was like Transformers potty humor or like some type of weird super cheesy moment. I was never thrown off.
Yeah, there weren't like fart jokes or anything like that.
And like the way Andrew Garfield plays the character is it fits right in place, the little comments that he makes and the things that he does, and stopping as he's, rescuing someone to say this or say that. Like, that's what I'm expecting out of him, and that's why I like him as that character. So I don't mind that at all. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, like, he got Spider-Man in the suit perfect, like, making the quips and being all, like, fun and cheesy. Like, that's what Spider-Man is, and that's what Spider-Man always has been. I would say, though, tone of the movie, this one was a lot heavier than the previous one. I mean,
Yeah.
for the whole movie, beginning to end, it was a little heavier. And, I mean, you can go too heavy. I don't know if they quite got there. I don't think they did. Because, I mean, the certain themes that they're dealing with are supposed to be heavier. So, like, it was a little less fun, a little more heavy, but it still was great. They did good.
Without getting into any spoilers quite yet, we'll have another segment of spoilers here in a minute, but just overall, continuing with Peter Parker a little bit, because we're talking about the tone, and part of that tone and part of the atmosphere throughout the film is obviously the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. And a lot of times, big blockbusters and or big action flicks or superhero films don't quite understand or handle how to do the love angle or the relationship angle. How do you guys feel that was done in this film? The kind of back and forth relationship between Andrew Garfield between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. How was that handled? And do you think it fit within the bigger action film that's going on, or do you think it was kind of that cheesy romance thing that sometimes we fall prey to, Nate?
Their chemistry is great on screen, and I believe that they are dating in real life. Okay, so I mean, I don't follow celebrity whatever, but I think something like that makes a lot of difference, because you can kind of tell that they do have a sort of chemistry together, and they work great together. I want to say I want someone to tell me that all of the them just being just talking back and forth, like some of those lines were ad-lib, because it totally felt like it.
Did you ever feel like, they had to throw in a love story here or a love line type plot because they felt to, or did you feel like it was completely natural?
For the most part, I felt like it was natural. And I mean, obviously, you needed that love story plot for other parts of the movie to have more weight to them. So,
what about you, Matt?
I thought it was good.
I've said it a million times. I think that between these two movies, the Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker love story is the most convincing love story I've seen in a comic book movie ever. It's probably the most convincing love story I've seen in an action movie ever. Like they sell it like perfectly. It's believable from start to finish. Like they did a great job.
I actually said this to Joel when I left the theater. To me, not only was the relationship natural, it didn't distract from what else was going on. It never felt forced or artificial like it does so many other films. To me, I would say that Emma Stone and Gwen Stacy as a character is the single best love interest character in all of comic book film history. Like, I don't think there's ever been any other type of love interest with one of the main characters in any superhero film that's been done better than how it was done in this one. I can't think of any type of, like, anything. Mary Jane, Lois Lane, whoever else is love interest of different characters. I don't know. Is there anything that you guys can think of that even comes close to how this one's done?
No. Yeah.
So
maybe it's because they're young. Like a lot of the other ones they're a lot older, and there's something romantic about young love instead of like Thor and Natalie Portman. Like, I don't know.
Like a 35-year-old having love at first sight sort of situation.
Yeah, and then like what is it? Pepper Potts and Iron Man, like they have a fun dynamic between each other, but it's not really romantic.
yeah, that could be part of it. I don't know. I couldn't pinpoint it. I don't know if it was just Emma Stone, if it's the fact that they're younger, if it's the combination that they are, dating in real life. Sometimes that actually does not work well for other couples. Sometimes they are trying too hard to act, I guess, where they don't just let the natural part take over. But I know it in other situations that hasn't worked well. So, I mean, that was interesting. But I thought that was just perfectly done. And I guess I'm a huge Emma Stone fan, which I knew I was a fan of hers before, but I didn't know I was this big of a fan. I think we're going to basically go into, for the next like 2 or 3 segments here that we talk about will all be spoilers.
Oh, wait. Before we get into super spoilers, I just got one more comment about the film overall. There were some shots in it that just bugged the crap out of me. There was like when the Green Goblin was being the Green Goblin, it went into like a crazy flashy strobe light.
Oh my god!
I couldn't look at the screen. I was like, I can't do this. It's gonna hurt my eyes too much. It was ridiculous. There should have been a
seizure warning in front of that, because that scene lasted entirely too long with just red, black, red, black, red, black, red, white, black, white, red, black, white, black, black, red, black, and that's about 10 times longer than that.
Yeah.
It was dumb.
What else? There was another shot that was just like really bad that I can't remember now.
Was Paul Giamatti in the rhino suit?
No, that one was fine. Was that bad?
He looked really badly shooped in that suit.
Oh, like he wasn't actually in the suit. They just like
it looked
photoshopped
like
him into it. No, well, maybe that, but also when they're on the plane in the very beginning, and there's like the gunfight kind of like close quarters thing. The camera was so shaky. I was so worried the entire movie was going to be shot like that. And do you remember that, Matt?
Yeah, I don't like. I was watching it, going like, "There's no point in shaky cam. Like this is a perfectly straight flying plane. Like, why are we doing a shaky cam? Like, it's like, is this such an unbelievable action scene without it? Because otherwise, it doesn't need to be there."
It felt like that whole scene was done by a completely different director.
Yeah.
I don't recall either scenes that you're talking about as being something
Oh,
that
wow.
distracted me.
Really?
You saw it this morning, dude.
I know, and I don't remember having any problem with the shaky film, with the shaky cam, or having any problem with the strobe lights.
Wow, I
Okay.
expect you to be way more critical than either of us, so that's
Gonna have to be.
that-
I'm gonna have to step up my game. No more
Yeah.
no more 9:30 movies or whatever time in the morning that was.
I need someone to like hear that. Like, shaky cam is not a good. No one has ever gone into a movie and is like, this movie could use in the action scenes less clarity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know what's going on.
Like, shaky cam's terrible, super poor lighting, like in the fight scene in the end of episode 2, where all you see is faces and flashes. Not good. Just let me see what's happening.
And all the other
Episode
tactics that Michael Bay has
2
ever used are usually not good.
Yeah.
Lens flares, they're just annoying. Like, they don't look cool.
I will say though that I absolutely, one aspect, and I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me, but one aspect I really love, not only in the first one but even more so in the second one, is I actually love the slow-mo Spider-Man scenes.
Totally. I want that.
Yeah,
Like,
it really just really good. Overall, just anytime Spider-Man's just web slinging around the city, it looks great. Like, other than in the first one, they did a lot of first-person stuff, which was kind of weird. But that's like for the IMAX 3D effect, right? But
They didn't do that in the second one, so thumbs up.
but there was just
Did they-
there was a few of those slow-mo or even like almost like standstill type scenes that they did that just made it look completely like epically awesome. That I really enjoyed, and it just made it like fun to watch.
But then again, my taste in like cinematography though is I just really love well composed still shots, and you don't get a lot of those in action movies like Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I just think it was a cool setting to do that. With the city as backdrops, with him flying through the air and doing different stuff. I thought they had perfect opportunities that they definitely took advantage of with some of those still shots and slow motion shots. So something to look for in the film and enjoy. And if they do more Spider-Man films, which they obviously are, I hope that continues to be somewhat not overly done, but something that is an element of them. All right, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you're going to have to skip ahead, and we will put a time marker in right here.
To avoid any spoilers, please skip to the 2 hour, 1 minute, and 45-second mark.
And getting into some of the bigger issues with the film, because I know, Matt, according to Nate, you had a problem with this, but obviously Joel, who I was watching this film with, was completely shocked that that a certain character dies. I, on the other hand, unfortunately saw it coming a mile away.
Even before Nate ruined it.
Well, no, the backdrop of that comment was in the back of my head. So,
dude, I'm sorry.
No,
man.
that's all right.
I feel so bad.
That's okay. So then watching the movie though, I was somewhat expecting it to happen, and for a long time I'm like, oh, there's no setup for it to happen now, nothing. And as soon as she is no longer, as in the background, as soon as she was wanting to go with him on that one, I'm like, this is going to lead to her death. So
I'm the only one that can do this. I need to hit this button.
yeah, she didn't really do anything that drastic. But anyway, so obviously, and most people obviously are aware of the comic book history, so they knew there was a possibility of that coming. And just your everyday moviegoer should have been able to somewhat predict that as she gets more involved in the situation. Although, I guess the everyday moviegoing audience would still somewhat be shocked, because it seems like even though there are opportunities for a lot of superhero films to do that, it's something that seems like it's hardly ever done lately.
The Marvel movie cinematic universe, no deaths. So far.
We have not seen it, so I mean, and there's been chances for them to do that. So I guess you still might be a little shocked that they actually follow through with it. But something that we'll have to get into, because I think we're going to disagree with this, Matt. But I actually, although obviously you're sad because both the acting of Emma Stone and the portrayal of Gwen Stacy is so far superior than anything I think we've ever got in that type of role that it's just sad in general to see that come to an end. That notwithstanding, I thought they executed her death. Actually, I couldn't think of a better way to have that scene play out.
Well,
Matt
get ready to have your mind blown.
No, I gotta interject because I got nothing to say on this. Never mind. Fuck.
Let me say my case so that Matt can then correct me, and bring me back to earth. But the reason I enjoyed it, and enjoy is a horrible word to use there because I did not enjoy her dying. But the reason I appreciated that scene was because too many times I believe when they actually do have a death in a movie like this, it's simply, oh, such and such just gets in the way of something, or such and such throws themselves in front of a bullet, or whatever might happen. And I was afraid for the longest time that they were going to kill her by just simply having her be in the way of Peter Parker and get electrocuted by Electro or something like that. And
She
that was
jumps on a goblin bomb.
yeah, like something like
Spider-Man.
like if it had happened like that, that was really going to piss me off. Like I hate the pointless like, I'm going to save you even though I don't need to save you, or vice versa. The hero does something that is not necessary and it then leads to their death. But in this situation, he's literally trying to save her, and the fact that the only thing that's like 6 inches separates him saving her and her dying, to me, is why I appreciate that scene. Not just that, but that was a shocking, like, from the camera angle, the sound effects, and everything about that was like, oh my God, like, you can't survive that. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciated the way it was shot and done, and the fact that it wasn't because of something she did, or it wasn't that just the supervillain killed her, that it was literally a consequence of, circumstances where he tries to save her and he just comes up about 6 inches short. For that, I appreciated it. But why did you hate it?
Okay, so I didn't hate it. I thought everything you said I agree with, and the comic book did it better. On every point you're making right now, comic book did it better. And I'm notorious for being the guy who's like, you should stick to the source material. I'm also, I've said it a million times, if you do it better, I'm all for it. Comic book did it better, though. One point I want to make, though, or go back, with this still in the same thing, you were right, that shot, that violence, that was great. The only way that they could have done it better without changing anything was they shot her death like 7 times. I was reading an article, and they ended up keeping that one for a few reasons. One, because it's close to the original. But there was one way they shot it where it was exactly how it is, only when he's down there going, no, Gwen, the goblin's just laughing. Like,
damn.
And it's like, that would have been better. They couldn't keep it in and keep the PG-13, apparently. Like, apparently that was the step between 13 and R, and they had to take that out. And that would have been so much better.
I was surprised because I was expecting that whole time that he was down there to at least have some type of shot of the goblin.
Yeah.
And we didn't get
that. Whether laughing, remorseful, something.
Something, just looking on, noticing what happened, something.
Aware, yeah. It's a little upsetting that they didn't do that. I think that would have made that way more heart-wrenching if they'd had the laugh in there. I really wish they'd gotten away with it. And I hope they put that on the DVD as an extra, because I think that's gonna, I want to see it. So the comic book version, very similar. The Green Goblin figures out who Peter Parker is, and since he's Norman Osborn at the time, he's very aware that Harry's best friend is dating Gwen, and Harry is also in love with Gwen. That's another element from the comic books that really would not have added anything to the movie. So what he does is he wants to get back at Spider-Man. He hates Spider-Man, and he's going to set Spider-Man up to fail. So he gets on a bridge, and Spider-Man shows up, and he's like, I'm stopping you, Goblin. And the Goblin's like, I know who you are, Peter. And he's like, uh-oh. And he's like, I've got your girlfriend. And he's like, I've also got a bus with like 60 people on it. And he tosses them off different sides of the bridge. And he goes, there's no way you're going to catch both of them. And then he flies off or whatever. And like Spider-Man goes, oh no, I've got to make a choice. And he jumps off the bridge, saves the 60 people because he's Spider-Man, and he can't be the Spider-Man that saves the one person. And then he goes to swing over and shoots Gwen. It's the same situation. She's falling, the web's going, she's falling, the web's going, the web grabs her, and then the web stops, and she doesn't hit anything. And he climbs down the web, and she was moving at such a speed that the web slowed her down so quickly, her neck snapped. Her death's on him now. If he had done nothing, she would have died and have been the Goblin's fault. Him trying to save her kills her, so he's even in this bigger depression because he, maybe if I'd done it differently, like, and then also it has the element of choice, like, he didn't choose his love, he chose the city because he's Spider-Man and he's got to be the hero, not Peter Parker, the personal thing. I think if they had done it like that, I think it would have been better. They did a pretty good job. Again, you're like, it's like he just missed it by inches, but it's like I think ultimately he can't blame himself. Like he can only blame her and the Goblin, or him blaming himself. I think would have been for more character development.
Interesting.
Matt?
It's interesting that you bring that up because part of the screenplay is written by Ortzi and Kurtzman. I believe. I'm pretty sure they're credited as part of the either screenplay or the writing for this. And they are also in charge of writing for the TV series Hawaii Five-0. And in Hawaii Five-0, that whole stick with me.
All right.
In Hawaii Five-0, without actually having superheroes involved and whatnot, they almost do an exact replication of the story that you just said, where they take someone and they have either a group of people that they can save or the love interest, and they basically send them both in different directions, and he can't get to both of them in time, so he has to choose one or the other. I don't know why that made me think of that, but that's almost the exact same scenario, and they had already written that into a TV series. Not saying that they wouldn't write something similar into a superhero film, but because the whole time you were describing that, I was like, where have I seen this before, or where have I heard this before? Because I haven't read the comic, so I didn't know that happened. But sorry, I had to interject with that. Nate, go ahead with whatever.
I wanted to say. Okay. Oh, go on, Matt.
Okay, I was gonna say someone also brought up that I guess they do that in one of the recent Batman movies, where it's like you can do this one or the other one, and then I think it was the second one, and the Joker like lies to Batman about which one he's going to save, so that he chooses wrong based on his choice or whatever. But I don't remember the Dark Knight very much. But you go, Nate.
I was just gonna say, I want to have a new podcast where you, Matt, you describe comic book scenes that I haven't read, and then I just go, no way. Oh, that's cool. Whoa. That's
been the last last 10 years of my life. It was funny because I remember in high school someone's like, Matt, you're going to grow up to be the comic book guy from The Simpsons. And I was like, I don't even like comic books. Those are lame. And 10 years have gone by, and my favorite thing in life now is to explain comic book scenes to people.
So coming soon to Geekcast Radio. And getting into, I guess this is more of a minor spoiler, but I don't want to not preface it with that because it might ruin some parts for some people. But there is some interesting scenes that they give in this film that we somewhat were expecting as far as their setup for future films and possibly the Sinister Six film eventually. And that is while they're at Oscorp, obviously they show some artifacts, relics, or armor, or things that allude to who might possibly be involved with the Sinister Six. Now, after the film, I looked up Sinister Six online, and I didn't realize that there's been like 12 different versions of the Sinister Six.
At least.
There's 10 or 12 versions on the page that I was looking at, and all of them have different combinations. And from what I gather, this Sinister Six version in the film series here will be similar to none of those. Well, I shouldn't say not similar. It will not be the exact combination in any of those 10 or 12 that have happened before.
Okay.
Because it's including two people that are never included in any of those. But you guys are going to be able to point out the things that you saw probably better than I would. What evidence of which characters did you guys see during the course of this film?
I think we have at least 5 of the 6 down pat, right? It's going to be Electro, it's going to be Green Goblin, it's going to be Rhino. We got all 3 of those, right? Then it's going to be Doc Ock, the Vulture, and then we don't. I mean, they haven't done who the 6th one is yet, right?
Can I please ask why Mysterio hasn't been done yet?
Seriously.
Oh my god, I've been wanting to bring this up for a while. Mysterio would be such a good movie villain.
And especially with a very silly Spider-Man. Like, you could do like a circus element with him. It'd be great. Like,
here's, I guess, the point to me, I guess what I came out with it is that you assume that the Green Goblin is the leader of the 6 at this point.
he almost always is.
Okay, so because that's just kind of a given.
He's also Harry Osborn, the one with all of the technology in the movie. They've set him up for it.
And then you're going through the one scene where they're actually showing chamber or the cell after cell. You see the Doc Ock, you see Vulture, and you see Rhino.
Yeah.
Are we 100% convinced that Electro comes back in a future movie?
I am 90% sure because his death was like most movie deaths, where it's like, and there's no body, you don't trust it. But one, that two, he and Harry established a relationship where they trust each other, and he's willing to follow Harry's orders. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't. And I also came up with who I think the 6th member is going to be, which is probably going to be, he's going to merge something with the Oscorp, make a super soldier serum, and give it to his assistant, who he already said was named Felicia. It's going to turn her hair white. She's going to become the Black Cat. She's going to be good for that movie. She's going to have redemption in the Secret Six movie, and then she's going to become a good guy. Not the Secret Six movie.
She's going to be bad for that movie.
For one movie, she's going to be bad in that movie, have redemption by the end, and become a good guy, and they're going to find a new 6th member.
You said she was going to be good in her first movie.
No. She's like, Harry Osborn's going to like do something, give her some sort of super serum or something. It's probably going to turn her hair white. She's going to become the Black Cat, and then she's going to be bad. She's going to be the 6th member, and then become good by the end with the redemption. That's my prediction right now.
Okay, so 2 things on that. Number one, it was pretty clear that her appearance in this film was not going to be a one and done type thing. That there was going to be something else that we see from her in the future. And is the name Felicia? That is what the Black Cat's name was.
Felicia Harden.
Okay. So, are you confident that they're going to put someone into the Sinister Six who has never been in any other form of the Sinister Six?
It's likely, since they've already changed a lot from the original comic books. It would not surprise me in the least.
Gotcha.
Another name they dropped was Smythe was Jamie Foxx's boss. And Alistair Smythe is another smarty guy from the Spider-Man comic franchise.
Oh, is that one guy that from Inglourious Bastards?
It was the guy. I think he was wearing glasses. He was Jamie Foxx's boss in the building.
Was he the guy that like told him to go and fix the thing? And he's way bigger of an actor. I could totally see him coming back.
He's not Secret Six material, or Sinister Six. Sorry, Secret Six is a DC franchise that I really like. He's not Sinister Six material, but he is like Kingpin's number 1 man.
Yeah.
I guess this could lead into our question for next week, and we can talk about it now. But besides your theory, which could very well be what actually happens, if you were the one picking, Matt, and we only had one more member for the Sinister Six out of, we've had, I'm just going down the line and looking at names that we haven't thrown out here, but you have Sandman, you have, like Nate said, Mysterio, Kraven the Hunter, you have...
Venom. They're going to do Venom again, aren't they?
Well, Venom is supposed to be...
Venom was never a Sinister Six, was he?
He was, in one of the versions. The 5th incarnation had Venom. That one was...
Hydro.
You also had Scorpia, Shocker, Beetle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you Lizard, but we already saw that character. Is there a specific one that you think you would rather see in this one? If you had to pick a 6th member.
If I had to pick a 6th member, it would be Mysterio for all the reasons Nate and I mentioned earlier. Although I think he would fit the best in. I think he'd be great, and it'd be a good like. I think it could be a play off of like Harry being like, "We should do this," and Mysterio's like, "I'm as smart as that guy and less insane." Like, so it could have like a Starscream Megatron element to it, where it's like, which one of the bad guys is the better villain leader, But I would love to see them do the Beetle because that character has been done so well in the comic books and so poorly, and that's like an element to him that I would love to see them do that in the movies, but they probably should have started with him in the first movie. So like it's too late.
What about, I guess, two other questions then, Nate. I'll go to you on the same type of questions. But do you have any issue with them bringing in Doc Ock since he was done in the first three films, even though it's a completely different scenario here? Or do you think it would have been a better choice to substitute Rhino out and bring in a different character this film instead of Rhino?
Wait,
Oh,
what were you
those are
asking?
two different questions.
Yeah, two different questions.
Okay.
So number one is there any problem with bringing in villains that we've had from any of the recent Spider-Man films? And then number two, do you think it would have been a better choice to do someone else instead of Rhino?
Okay, so to the first question, I think it is a little like I don't know if they should bring those characters back, but we've had two movies, so they're not bringing anyone back till at least three movies. And then if you add on top of it the fact that they're not doing Venom in the next movie or Sandman, probably it's going to be 4 movies difference. Which I think, if you can't bring a character back 4 movies later, when can you? So there's that. I don't know if he would be my choice because he was also like a leader of the Sinister Six more than he was a back guy. So I don't know if he's the best choice for this, but he wouldn't be a terrible choice. And then the other one, the Rhino, yeah. I don't know if I would have gone with the Rhino. I think they did the Rhino better than doing another lizard where it's a mutation or something. But doing a very believable, realistic giant mech suit, good idea. I think if I were, I don't know. I kind of like the Shocker. I like the Scorpion. I like the Spider-Man's rogues, so they can't really go wrong.
I'm most looking forward to Vulture, actually. Not knowing much about any of the characters, I just think that looked like a cool get-up.
Okay. You going back to the one question. Who do you want to be the 6th member?
Me?
Yeah.
Mysterio, definitely.
Okay,
Yes.
and
No question. No question.
is it too soon for Doc Ock?
No. Although I do think the guy that I don't remember, I know he's like super famous. The guy that played the original Doc Ock did a really good job. Again, Spider-Man 2 is really good. I like it a lot.
And then what do you think they should have done if not Rhino?
Or do you have no problem with Rhino being involved in this?
I have a problem. No. You know what? I want to see more Paul Giamatti, so I don't even care. More
Oops.
Rhino. Give it to me.
I guess Kevin, it's your turn.
Honestly, I don't know all of the characters well enough to say who I would like as the 6th one. I have no problem with what you guys are saying about Mysterio. It sounds like somebody cool. I just think you got to make careful choices as far as which characters from the comics are transferable to the big screen. Now, I know these days a lot of things, there's not much that isn't possible with what technology has gotten us to. When we can make Godzilla and stuff like that look way more realistic than it ever has. But I just think you got to try to figure out the tone that's been set for this series of films and the universe that's been created. You got to be careful not to throw someone in there that doesn't seem to fit or that isn't going to be able to be done as well on the big screen, because not everything's as transferable. But I'll trust you guys that Mysterio is one that is. I personally think obviously Doc Ock is a villain that people are going to recognize, even those people that don't know Spider-Man very well, since he's already been done. So I guess there is that familiarity with it. Me personally, I would rather them avoid that though, only because you have so many to choose from that have been involved in the Sinister Six over the different iterations of it, that I don't necessarily think you need to go back. Like I'd have the same feeling if they went to a Sandman or you know, or Venom, like you said. I don't think those are ones that I mean, I think there's enough choices that you could have avoided it, and I'm not sure how Doc Ock, like you said, and Harry Osborn would be able to share. They both seem like leaders, so that seems a bit weird for me. And I would throw Rhino out for the reasons I just said about the other one. I don't think that was someone that's as easily transferable, and it just doesn't seem to jive with everything else. I think, I don't know. I don't know if they would have been able to do it more like they did, like with Incredible Hulk or something else, if they would have done something like that. But the whole look of a mech suit to me just doesn't work at all. So I'd take Rhino out and put somebody that's more human-like.
You know, it'd be great. What I would love to see is, like, in the next movie, throw in an Abner Jenkins as, you know, he's the guy who's Beetle in the suit, like in a really crappy suit, kind of like Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man 3 when he's storming the Mandarin's mansion, like a thrown together piecemeal suit that's like, I'm kind of a superhero, right? And have him like rob a bank and fail, and Spider-Man stop him, and then like at the end of Spider-Man 3, have him in like more of an Iron Man, the first Iron Man Mark 1 suit. And then in Spider, you know, the next one, have him be in an even more sleeker suit, and then just have him be like almost a joke character, where it's like, who should we get for our 6th member? And they're like, well, about that Beetle guy, and they're like, no, he's a joke. And then have him be just a joke, and then by like Spider-Man 5, have him be just better than the Sinister Six. They're like, can we get him? Like, I think that would be a great element. It'd be very comic book like, and it would follow really how the Beetle has been played. I think they could have started with the first movie and doing it, but I think they could still do it.
And then getting into just any other things about the overall film, any scenes or parts that you had problems with, anything that you had an issue, nitpick, or anything like that. What bugged you that you haven't brought up already, Nate?
I think I brought up all my nitpicks. I don't want to nitpick this one anymore. I just want to pretend that it's probably better than it is.
I had one scene that stuck out to me when I was first viewing this film, and like I said, maybe I need a repeat viewing to be a little bit more critical about this film. But I didn't like the fact that when Gwen Stacy is in I don't know if you want to call it a control room or whatever, and she needs to do the one thing that nobody else can do apparently, which is push that button. It's covered and there's a padlock on it, and then they just conveniently like show part of a scene that basically has a guy holding the key. Like,
wait, what happened? I'm confused.
She needs to unlock. She needs to hit that one button or turn the thing on or do whatever to get the power back on. And there it is. It has a plastic or a metal or some type of covering on it. It looked plastic.
Yeah,
and then it has a padlock locked, and she can't get it off. And then she just like looks to her left, and there's a guy's hand like upright, and there's a key in his hand to that padlock.
Oh, jeez. I don't remember that part.
And
really? Because you looked at me when you're like, really? In the theater.
It's been a whole day, Matt.
To me, that was too easy. I wanted her to struggle a little bit more with finding a way in there, and to just have some random guy, she could have even found a guy and like went through his pockets or something and found a key or something. But for him to just like literally be saying like, here's the key you need for that, it was way too convenient for me.
I agree with you. That's a good nitpick. I think what they should have done is had it been like a shovel and had her pick it up and just break the lock. Even though I know that like you can't break a padlock with a shovel. They do it all the time in movies, and it would be like, you know, she is strong. She doesn't need Spider-Man.
See, I thought
she don't need no man.
I thought she was gonna turn like she turns away from that, and I was somewhat expecting or hoping that she was actually just gonna do like what you see in a lot of films where she finds like a gun, and then even though she's never shot one before, and it would totally be out of her character to see her kind of being like struggling with the fact that she's gonna have to try to like shoot this lock off. Like that's what I somewhat was expecting, and then instead she just turned and there's the key. I don't know. I thought it could have. Go ahead.
Why even lock it at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, just have something that's not locked because there was no struggle in getting it unlocked. It was just ended up being a pointless scene.
there was a couple of flashback scenes that I felt were entirely unnecessary. I feel like a lot of that with flashback scenes, especially if the flashbacks are in the exact same movie we just saw.
Yeah.
Like there were issues like that. That's my last nitpick. I'm done. Matt,
what about you? Any other problems we haven't brought up with?
Yeah, I got one that I find a major problem, but I'm going to bring up one other nitpick that my friend, I have a friend, he hates everything. He doesn't like anything. But his complaints are always really weird, and I love that aspect to him sometimes. I mean, generally he bothers me, but some of his nitpicks are hilarious, and we were talking, he's like, I got problems with the timeline in that movie. I was like, what do you mean problems with the timeline? He's like, well, so he's supposed to be 18, right? He's graduating high school. I was like, yeah, that's where he is. It's like, he hadn't seen his parents died when he was like 8, right? And I was like, yeah, 8, that's about right for the movie. He's like, 10 years ago, so 2004. I'm like, yep, we're good. Timeline's good so far. He goes, I don't think that model of Volvo existed at that time. And I'm like, what Volvo? And he's like, no, he's in the car, and he's in the seat, and his parents are in the front. I don't think that car existed in 2004.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I'm like, that is a silly complaint, and that's not a timeline problem. Like,
that's unfortunate.
But there is a timeline problem that I think is a legit timeline problem, which is,
Matt,
what?
That's like Spoonie level nitpicking.
Spoonie?
Do you know who Spoonie is?
I think
he's a web critic.
Yeah. Okay. I know.
He nitpicks to the point of being annoying. Anyway, go on.
The timeline problem I have is like the Green Goblin, or not the Green Goblin. Chris Cooper's character, Norman Osborn. He dies at like 50 or so. It seems like. And like you watch the videos, and he's like gray hair talking with Richard Parker, and it's like he might be 30 or 40 at that point. Like Harry is showing severe signs at 18, like his skin's peeling off, he's super shaking, and like you feel like he's only got a few more years, like he doesn't not that he's halfway through his lifespan, and I feel like that was a little awkward. And then combined with I'm gonna inject myself with venom. Nope, that didn't work. I'm gonna jump inside this healing suit. It's like, why don't we try the healing suit first?
I think he was so set on the fact that he didn't know that existed, the spider venom, and that he just was convinced that was going to be the cure, that he wouldn't really have thought about the suit. I don't have a problem with him shaking as much, because as they said, the symptoms were supposed to start at that age, or he said that's about when it started for him. But yeah, I thought the skin part was a little too quick, or a little, maybe not too quick, but too intense.
Oh, hey Matt. I got one more question for you. Do you think? How do you feel about the storyline in this version of Spider-Man that Oscorp is responsible for all of it?
All of the villains?
Like everything.
I think. Including Spider-Man. I think that it makes it more believable. Like, I mean, I don't know if I like it, but I know that, like, going like, like, there's a superhero, and all of a sudden supervillains spring up, because why wouldn't there? It's like, well, I mean, which actually, I mean, if you go into science and nature, it's like when you have, when high levels of prey happens, predators move in, and it, like, makes sense on a awkward, like, illogical scientific standpoint. The idea of, like, there's this one company, and they keep churning out things, and sometimes people get those things and they're good, and sometimes people get those things and they're bad. Makes more sense in the real world.
I agree 100% with what Matt just said. I actually really liked that about this, that it was all, because to me it's too fake when all of a sudden you have, like, I was thinking about it, like most supervillains and how they're created, it's some type of weird accident, experiment, gene type thing, whatever. It's weird to me that you would have a hero and then all of a sudden that you would have something like that happen in so many different spots. Like, right. To me, it's better if it's all contained in a company or in a corporation that is doing that type of stuff, rather than, hey, over in New York, this happened. Oh, wait, over in San Francisco, this happened. Like, I don't know. I like that it was all within that one entity.
Okay. Fair enough.
Any favorite parts, favorite scenes, favorite lines, or favorite aspects of the film that you haven't been able to bring up yet, Matt?
We out of spoilers now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The one thing I really enjoyed, like, it looked awkward, at first was when Spider-Man's in the back of that Oscorp truck trying to juggle all those uranium things. It looked silly. The CG was a little off, maybe, but I'm like watching the scene, and my first initial reaction is like, oh, that's weird, and then I was like, wait, no, I've read this comic. Like, I've seen this scene. This is exactly how it'd be in the real world, and I totally am down. Like, that really like made my day.
I found myself finding a lot of stuff more humorous than I probably was even supposed to, because I was just like laughing at Peter Parker / Spider-Man and just about everything he did.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
I'm like, I find that funny. I don't care if nobody else does. I find that funny. And they were so quick and so like nonchalant that it's almost stuff that you don't necessarily remember right after, but stuff that made the viewing experience more enjoyable. Anything else, Matt?
Nah, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed it.
Nate, anything specific?
I liked when he told Electro to lick his hand and then he did his hair.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Nice. All right, well then, getting into our overall. Go ahead.
I remembered one thing, which I wanted to say earlier, but I didn't have a good moment. That first Spider-Man Electro scene, where it's like, you don't remember me, like, like he had imagined how, next time I talk to Spider-Man, I'm going to talk about this or this. Like, I've had those moments before, like, in my life, where it's like I expect the next meeting with that person's going to go down this way, and then like I meet it, and then like it doesn't go at all how I thought, and like I could totally feel what he was feeling right there, and I really enjoyed that as a socially awkward person who finds himself in social situations.
And help give you a way to relate and to that character and make it a little bit more believable.
Yeah.
Before we give our overall thoughts and grades on this film, one thing we didn't talk about, well, we talked about it somewhat in passing, but let's talk about real quick the end credit scene and then the trailers that we saw for this film, because there's one that I wanted to point out that we were talking about a little bit off air. But number one, I, for some reason, had a complete like brain dead moment where the credits started to roll, and I was like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing what else we see from like to set up the Sinister Six and to set up, more villains or whatever is going to be potential." And then the scene started, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm an idiot." I'm like, I forgot that the whole talking about the whole deal with the X-Men, blah blah blah. I'm like, I need to punch myself in the face. But what did you guys think of the end credit scene?
Nate and I had a moment with that, actually, where like we're sitting there and Nate's like, "Do we really need to stay to the end of these credits?" And I was like, "Yeah. Like, what if they do an end credit scene?" He's like, "Dude, all they're gonna do is the trailer." Like, and it was like, "Do we really need to stay to see another trailer?"
Yeah.
And that was all they did.
Yeah.
And it was so just forced in, like, which I mean, I have to admit, if they're like, "Hey, we're gonna let you keep that guy, but we have to put a trailer of our movie in your movie during the credits." They're like, "Sure, we always do end credits." No. During the credits. Like, I mean, if they're gonna get the most of their money, I guess.
So we also didn't mention, because I forgot, but I just want to get your quick reaction to the however many ways to die in the West trailer, Nathan.
Oh, yeah, the Doc Brown part.
Were you expecting that?
No, I wasn't. Although, it's kind of funny. As soon as I saw that, I was like, of course. The only reason why we haven't seen that is because it's not animation, and Seth MacFarlane can't throw in 1,000 celebrity and referential jokes like that. But that's one he can actually do. So I get where that is now.
That was a mind-blowing moment for me. I was just like, Joel and I were like, what? Now we even want to see that movie more.
But I think that's going to be the joke.
Could be.
He's going to be like, what? Oh, okay, later. And then that's it. I don't think Doc Brown is going to be a huge part of that movie.
No, not at all.
Unfortunately.
It still adds something to it, though.
Yeah.
All right, so then getting our overall final opinions and grades on this film, on a 1 through 5 scale, and if you want to compare it to all the other Spider-Man films, or if you want to compare it to Captain America as superhero films of 2014 go, however you want to treat it. Matt, what do you overall think of this film?
Well, in the tradition of traditional sequels, I would totally say the first one's a 4, solid 4, maybe even a 4.5. This one, 3.5. It's a high 3.5. Like, I want to give it a 4. Maybe upon reviewing, I'd give it a 4, but 3.5 is what I'm gonna go officially. That's my star rating.
I would actually flip-flop it myself. I would give the first one a 3.5 and the second one a 4. I genuinely like the second one better than the first one. In a lot of different ways, including I like the villains in this one better. I think you got more Andrew Garfield and more development there. The relationship between him and Gwen Stacy furthered. I don't know. I like the humor better. I liked most things about this film better than the first one, and I liked the first one. So yeah, I would give this one a 4. Nate, what about you?
I'd probably give the first one a 3.5 and this one a 3.
Fair enough. And
Disagreement.
How about just real quickly, as far as where this one ranks amongst Spider-Man films, Nate, where would you? We've had 5 now. Where do you think this one falls?
I haven't had. Wait, we've had more than 5. There was the one in the 70s.
We've
No,
had
we're
5
not counting
Spider-Man
that.
movies.
Okay. No. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch 3 to see if it's
3 is awful.
Good or not. People say that.
3's
yeah.
the lowest.
Okay.
I haven't even
Fair enough.
it.
By popular opinion, 3 is the lowest. But I don't know. I still think I like. I think if I want to rank them all just right now, probably like Spider-Man 2, then like Amazing Spider-Man 1, and then Spider-Man 1, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2.
All right.
And Spider-Man 3.
What about you, Matt?
I would go Amazing 1, Amazing 2, Regular 1, Regular 2, Regular 3.
All right. And I would go Amazing 2, Amazing 1, and then I'd have to rewatch Spider-Man 1 and 2 to figure out which one I like better out of those two, and then Spider-Man 3 at the bottom. I genuinely think this is the best Spider-Man film I've ever seen. But like I said, maybe my opinion will change as I go forward. I actually would almost say that this is, to me, was possibly even better than Captain America. Anyway, I don't want too many people to throw stuff at their computer, so I'm not going to say that loudly. Which is weird because I totally wasn't expecting to like this better than I like Captain America, but I may have.
It's a way different movie.
Yeah.
It hits on completely different, it touches on different, whatever you want to say. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
No, it's a different feel completely.
Yeah.
All right,
It's
well,
too late.
That's it for the main attraction. When we come back, we will be getting into coming attractions and close out the show for you.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night at the sea.
All right. As for coming attractions this week, Blu-ray releases, there's not a lot of new stuff as far as like last year's films or anything like that. It's mostly releases of either older stuff or like some type of anniversary stuff, and then we get a whole slew of Godzilla films coming out on DVD or Blu-ray in anticipation of the new Godzilla movie. There's literally 6 different Godzilla Blu-rays coming out this next Tuesday.
That's awesome.
So if you're a Godzilla fan, you're like, it's Christmas has come early. Other than that, it's like I said, nothing really new that's coming out. There's a Blazing Saddles 40th Anniversary Edition coming out on Blu-ray. So you might want to pick that up, I guess, if you're a Blazing Saddles fan. As far as theater releases, though, we do have a few. Now, remember, this is basically the interim between Spider-Man and X-Men, so not a lot of stuff's going to try to compete with that. For animation-wise, we have Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, which has been 3 years in the working.
That movie, dude. That movie is going to
disappoint.
Yeah.
It had such potential when it first got rumored 3 years ago with Kelsey Grammer and Patrick Stewart and like all these awesome people involved, and then it has just gone into a nonsense land somewhere. And then we have Neighbors, the comedy there, the big comedy release, and then we also have Chef, which we talked about a few times, getting a limited release.
Is Chef going to get an actual release?
I'm assuming in some places in the bigger markets it'll filter out here in the next couple weeks, but it'll just be New York and LA this next week. Neighbors will be everywhere, obviously, so you can check that out if you're into any of those actors or just looking for a comedy in between the superhero films. Anything that interests you out of those, Nate?
If I'm going to see a movie next week, it's probably going to be Neighbors unless we get Chef, because that's the only other one that I'm interested in.
Right. Or if you really want to buck the trend and what everybody's just saying, I guess you could try to go see Transcendence and see if it's really as bad as everyone's saying it is.
We could do that.
As for the credit conversation from last week, we were asking people what DC character we would most like to see in a Justice League film. We got a few responses there. Matt's not here anymore with the show, but he agreed with Freddie Savage that Captain Marvel or Elongated Man would be cool to see. We had people say Atom, Metamorpho, Red Tornado, that came in from Connor Murphy. Let's see, who else do we have? Firestorm, Freddie Savage also mentioned. The Elephant Man. Oh no, sorry, that's not a superhero. That's a film from David Lynch. I'm getting my comments confused. Booster Gold was mentioned by Beyond Humor, and a few people agreed with that. Dr. Fate by Justin Washington. What do you think about some of those suggestions, Nate?
Yeah, Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate would be great. Yeah, definitely. And Captain Marvel definitely would be awesome.
All right, so we thank you for those comments, and keep the comments coming. We already said the question for this week, and that would be, who do you want to see as the last member of the Sinister Six, if we are correct in our assumption on the first five based on this last movie, but who would you want to see as number 6? All right, thanks as always for joining us here on MWIRE Weekly. You can contact us in the following ways. You can call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. You can email feedback at geekcastradio.com. You can visit the Facebook page by searching out Geekcast Radio Network. You can follow us or interact with us on Twitter. You can do @Geekcast Radio and just do a hashtag with MWIRE. You can follow me at Optimus Solo. And Nate, what's yours?
At Adolfo Shabadoo.
And Matt says at Fridley Sent. And also, if you have any comments, nobody mentioned anything about Matt's mic switch in the previous episode. So if anybody was listening to our last episode and wants to comment on which version of Matt's mic worked better, you can. Otherwise, he's going to stick to the comfortable version. And we'd also like some feedback, too, from our movie games last week. Nobody mentioned if that was a segment that you enjoyed or did not enjoy. So let us know so we know to do those again or not to do those again.
I enjoyed that segment.
I enjoyed it too, so hopefully we can do some more of those and we'll get feedback on if people actually like that or not. So that is it for us. And remember, for all things movies, keep tuned to MWIRE Weekly.